it is the beginning of the spooky season, and with Rage of the Abyss containing choice staples, as well as a new meta right around the corner, it's time for the top 10 cards you should be picking up for October. And the first card we're mentioning today brings the heat as a fan favorite, and that is Fire King Consort Okonyx. Not only is she a great starter, but an excellent follow-up because whenever she is summoned, she allows you to destroy to add from the deck to the hand, as well as whenever she is destroyed, she allows you to special summon Fire King High Avatar Garunix directly from your deck. With the hit to Snake Eye on the most recent ban list, many players are resorting to the Fire King Snake Eye deck, especially as a budget alternative to the current meta game. Plus, another attribute she has is that she is a level 4, which we'll mention a little bit later of why that is so important in the future meta game. So with the Fire King deck being budget friendly, it is an easy start to today's top 10 list. And that brings us to our second card, and this is where we're going to start spicing things up a bit, and that is Protector of the Sanctuary. And now your response is, you either think I'm crazy, or if you know, you know. And that is because over in the OCG, Protector of the Sanctuary has been a very popular tech card, and that is because of the new Molcharmy package. With many of the decks main decking Molcharmies as well as Maxi over in the OCG, many players will be shotgunning these hand traps to avoid other cards such as triple tactics talents if they activate them in the main phase. So a lot of players will let their opponent shotgun the Molcharmies as well as the Maxi during the draw phase, and then in the main phase they will normal summon Protector of the Sanctuary and then proceed with their combo line, and then Protector will make it where the opponent will not draw any cards when you summon. And now while Protector of the Sanctuary might seem like an odd choice to actually incorporate in the side deck just to try to get around a Molcharmy, this has actually been seeing quite success over in the OCG, so it really isn't that crazy of an idea. And honestly, I could see this tech following suit to the TCG once we see the release of Molcharmy Fuaros. And not only is it good against the Molcharmy package, but as soon as the Ryziels are released to the TCG, having a level 4 Protector of the Sanctuary that you can start your combo line with is actually why we've been seeing its increased usage over in the OCG, and is sure to follow suit to the TCG upon Ryziel's release. So to the players that are a little nervous about the Maxi meta coming to the TCG, definitely be looking at Protector of the Sanctuary as an alternate way to combat the meta. But the last thing to note about Protector of the Sanctuary is it is also a level 4, which brings us to our next card. Number 41, Baguska, the Terribly Tired Tapir. And now, Baguska is a card that has been floating around the metagame, or even the rogue parts of the meta, for quite some time now, but the main reason we are including Baguska in today's top 10 is that it is actually a potential out to the Molcharmy package. If your deck is able to summon multiple level 4 monsters, like previously mentioned Fire King, or if you're talking about things like the Ryziels, anything to incorporate the Protector of the Sanctuary, then you are in luck. Because as we did mention, a lot of players are shotgunning the Molcharmy package right off the rip. Hell, some decks will shotgun it with a Dimension Shifter, and that puts you into a very awkward spot. So players are realizing utilizing their level 4 rank 4 package to go into kind of a checkpoint for their combo called Baguska will make it where they will give their opponent very few draws, as well as kind of a wall to have to get around on the following turn. Because as we know, Baguska switches everything to defense mode, prevent their effects, and then on the following turn, you can actually turn it into a Sky Thunder Zeus. And that's why we're actually seeing the Ryziel deck over in the OCG kind of have the upper hand, because if you are hand trapping them early, they're actually able to go right into Baguska, kind of stall out until their following turn, and then proceed right into all their combos leading into game. So rather you're getting a head start on the meta or want to be combating this Molcharmy meta that the TCG is about to go into, definitely consider number 41, Baguska, the Terribly Tired Tapir, for your deck. And then more ways to counter the meta, we go back to an oldie but goodie, and that is Dimensional Barrier. And as we just previously noted, Ryziel is going to be quite the formidable deck once it is released to the TCG, and a lot of players are getting a head start on its counter, and that is with cards such as Dimensional Barrier, simply calling Exceed, and that will cut off all their extra deck lines off the bat. And now while we know it is going to be exceedingly good against the Yugioh deck. It is already good against some of the decks in the meta, especially some getting support out of Rage of the Abyss, such as the Mermail Atlantean builds, as well as some of the Yubel decks themselves. So rather to combat the future meta or the current meta, Dimensional Barrier is a go-to and another card that we will keep mentioning on today's top 10 list. And the next is an upcoming staple that will hopefully go past 1, and that is Gold Sarcophagus. And now Gold Sarcophagus is a card we have been mentioning multiple times lately on this channel, and that is because Gold Sarcophagus has been a go-to staple in the OCG's Malice deck. But not only that, we have just seen the Dragon Rulers released to the TCG as semi-limited, and Gold Sarcophagus is amazing in that deck as well. Plus, when we look at Master Duel as well as the OCG list, we see that they have brought Gold Sarcophagus past 1. And it would not surprise me that once we see Malice released to the TCG, that we will not follow suit as well. Plus, with its inclusion in the Rarity Collection 2 pack, now is the time for players to be getting the blinged out versions of Gold Sarcophagus. And it is for all of these reasons that this is an easy card to be mentioning on this month's top 10 list. And now getting to the focal point of the video, and that is because it is the main card warping the metagame, and that is Mulcharmy Fualos. And now this is probably a surprise to no one, but the Mulcharmy Fualos has been the most anticipated card in quite some time for Yu-Gi-Oh! And that is because it represents a meta warp similar to that of Maxi. And I want to also note that when discussing the Mulcharmy Fualos, this makes it where Mulcharmy Purulia is even better with the inclusion of Fualos. I do think players should consider running both instead of only one. And that is because once you start drawing off of any of these draw cards, leading into potentially a second card that will allow you to draw, it just starts snowballing, allowing you to have access into your hand traps, access into your combos, your starters, your extenders, anything you need for the following turn. And this is why, if you are a meta player, I hate to say it, you're going to need this card, okay? And again, it might not just be the Fualos, it might be the Purulia as well. And as we know, these cards are really, really pricey, but they are going to go the distance in the future formats. Plus, as noted before, this is a meta warping card, and a lot of the cards we're mentioning on today's top 10 are directly related to the Mulcharmy Fualos. So with all these reasons, as well as how good this card is, Mulcharmy is easily the main card to include on this month's top 10 list. But keeping consistent with those draw options as hand traps, we go to the next monster, which is Fantastical Dragon Phantasme. And as we mentioned with the Fualos and the Purulia, including cards like the Fantastical Dragon Phantasme to your side deck with things like the Purulia and the Fualos, you're going to have so many monsters that allow you to draw from the deck, refresh your hand, and then not only have multiple outs for your opponent's combo line, but have anything you need for the following turn for your combos. And as we saw, Phantasme was already super popular with the increase in Yubel as well as Fiend's Fist support. But mark my words, once the Malice archetype is released to the TCG, the hype around Fantastical Dragon Phantasme will increase even more. So again, to the players out there, whether you're wanting to combo it with the Mulcharmies, or maybe you need it as a standalone and can't afford the Mulcharmies, then the Fantastical Dragon Phantasme is even more important for you to be including in your side deck. And now I want to note to the TCG players out there, I know it might not be favorable to some of you to be going into a semi-maxi feeling metagame, but I want to bring you a few options that you need to be looking at to be kind of combating that metagame. Whether it's things like Protector of the Sanctuary or going into checkpoints in your combo line like Baguska, there are definitely ways to be outplaying your opponent when they're playing these draw cards. And that leads us to our next card and possibly the most popular out to the card, and that is Crossout Designator. And now, Crossout Designator has been a go-to for quite some time in some of the meta decks, especially when you are going against choice hand traps or single cards that will out you, like Dimensional Barrier. And to the players that actually already have access to the Mulcharmies and their Crossout Designator, you are looking really good, because this is possibly one of the main ways to combat the Mulcharmy meta. But if you're already unable to afford the Mulcharmies and want to add a little bit of spice to wreck your opponent who does use them after you've gone first, then this next card is for you, and that is Heavy Slump. And now where Protector of the Sanctuary will actually prevent them from drawing while you extend your combo, the Heavy Slump is a card that if you want to proceed with your combo line, let them drop a bunch of cards into their hand while you establish a full board. And then on the following turn, when they have 8 or more cards in their hand from drawing, you hit them with the Heavy Slump. And that is because if your opponent has 8 or more cards in their hand, they shuffle their hand into their deck and then draw 2 cards. So to the players out there that might not be able to afford the Purulia Crossout Designator combo line, Heavy Slump is an easy, affordable, budget go-to that you can actually easily set up, especially since Heavy Slump is a normal trap card and has many ways to effectively search it directly from the deck. And this makes Heavy Slump one of the easiest cards to include in this month's top 10. And honestly, if you're trying to troll some of the meta players out there who did dump on the Purulia, now is the time with this choice tech card. And that leads us to the final card on today's top 10, and that is none other than Dominus Impulse. And that is because Dominus Impulse is one of the best meta cards out of Rage of the Abyss, essentially a hand trap that negates a card or effect that includes the effect of special summoning a monster. And then unlike the previous Dominus Purge, the Impulse is actually applicable in many meta decks, whether that's Snake Eye, Fire King, or even the up-and-coming Malice. So not only is this already a heavy hitter meta card out of Rage of the Abyss, but as we go into the future formats, it will be even more useful in a wider range of decks. So if you are already considering picking up the copies of Dominus Impulse, you might want to do so sooner rather than later when this card is in everyone's deck. And it is for that we have to include Dominus Impulse in October's top 10 list. But maybe you are wanting to know the best cards that you should be picking up out of Rage of the Abyss, and I got you covered with the top 10 cards that you should be picking up out of Rage of the Abyss. And for those that are wanting a little extra spice, definitely consider joining the membership, where we will have exclusive member videos and market watches for those that are supporting the channel. And for those that do, I greatly appreciate it. But most importantly, stay safe, have a good night, and suck it, nerds.